Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome to this week's card. Today I'm using a set by Avery Elle called Good Fortune. It's got an 8-ball in it, it's got a fortune cookie, a 4-leaf clover, a horseshoe, a bunch of different sayings. It's a really, really cute set. There you can see it. Alright, I'm going to start with my front panel, which is 4 by 5 1/4 inches. I'm going to measure 3/8 of an inch in from either side. And I'm making two marks because I'm going to connect those to make a line. And I'm going to make my mark a 1/2 inch from the top and then 3 1/4 inches down from that 1/2 inch mark. Now I'm using Post-its to connect these lines. You can use Eclipse masking tape. That seemed like kind of a lot of tape, so I thought I'd save a little money here and use some Post-its. And now I'm going to use some tumbled glass distress ink with an ink applicator. As you can see here, I'm priming my applicator, and what that does is it gets your applicator covered with ink, so you don't have too much ink or too little ink. It's just the right amount because you're kind of using it a little bit before you start. That way it kind of gets in that mode for coloring. And what you're going to do is you're going to start off the cardstock and move onto the cardstock, and you're going to start with a light pressure and then get heavier as you move toward the center. And that's really how you're going to avoid those nasty rectangular marks everybody keeps asking about. It just takes a little bit of practice, and the best thing to do is just do a light application of ink and just do it a bunch of times. It takes more time that way, but you get better results. Okay, there's all these different results from this 8-ball, and so I'm arranging them in a random pattern and putting them all on one block to save some time. I'm using some new Hero Art silver ink that I just got. And so I'm going to stamp them a few times with this arrangement that I've created here on the block. And you have to be careful, this ink is a little slippery, so you have to really kind of push down and then pick right back up, because it will kind of slide around a little bit if you push it down too hard. Alright, so I've got these little holes to fill, and I decided it would be easier to just kind of pick a few sentiments and do them individually. And the silver is a great color for this because it just sort of fades into the background a little bit. I think white would just be a little bit too bright. This set also comes with like a 3-bubble stamp, and I'm just using my Colorbox white ink. It's just a white pigment ink, it's my favorite, and I'm just randomly stamping these bubbles. And I realized later that they were a little bit too light, so I went back in with a gel pen, and I'll show you how I did that later. Okay, so I'm going to remove my Post-its. I'm going to push that off to the side to dry. I'm going to work on my 8-ball. Now, this 8-ball is a really solid stamp. There's a lot of solid area to it, so you want to make sure it's really clean before you start stamping it. So I wiped it off with a baby wipe and a towel, made sure everything was nice and clean. And then I'm using VersaFine ink here because it's very sticky and it's a pigment ink, and so you can look at your stamp to see if you've got good coverage. And I went ahead and stamped it again just to see if I could get a better image. I really like the one I got the first time, but sometimes the second one comes out even better. It did come out better, but just marginally better. They both came out really well. Okay, here's a little tip. I cut this out by hand, so because of that, I've got some white edge a little bit, and I just used a marker to color that in. Next is to stamp this banner. And then there are a lot of sentiments that can go in this banner, and I'm going to clean off my banner really well here, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these sentiments and I'm going to twist it and curl it like so that it fits right in to this banner. And that way you know when you stamp it, it's going to be exactly inside the banner. And you don't have to worry. I know I cleaned it really well just because I was worried that it would stamp again, but the banner does not stamp again, because there's enough distance from the paper because you've got that other stamp sitting right on top of it. Okay, and so I'm doing that same trick here where I'm doing the edges black because there was a black outline around my stamp. And I wanted to add a little bit of color to the sentiment, so I'm using the tumbled glass again, the same background color I used, and I'm taking a blender pen to pick up some ink, and I'm coloring in just not all of it, just a few areas that I think there might be a shadow. So it adds a little bit of color and adds a little bit of dimension. If you used a marker straight on, it would just be way too dark. So this adds just a very light, faint color. And I realized I probably should have zoomed in on that, so I held it up here so you can see. And if you go to my blog, if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a picture of it. Alright, next I'm going to put my twine on here. It's pretty easy to do. You just draw a line with a 2A glue pen, and then just stick it right on there and just tap it in, and it sticks immediately. This is really nice sticky glue. So now when you do the turn, you draw the line of glue and then hold your paper piercer right on the corner and wrap it around it, and that way you get a really nice sharp corner. And just do this all the way around. So draw your glue, and then you're not going to press too hard, just enough to wrap it around, and then just tap it on there and it sticks. Now for your final edge, you're going to go as close as you can to where you started, and then you're going to need a really nice pair of scissors to get in there and cut it so that it doesn't look like it's sticking over the edge at all. Taking some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals, which is just foam adhesive, and I'm putting that on the pieces here, and I used a half a piece. 3/2 fit perfectly on this banner. Just stick it right on there. Now this is where I decided to go back in and add a little bit more brightness to these bubbles. And I'm not coloring them in with the white gel pen, I'm just kind of making a few swirls in each of the bubbles just to brighten it up a little bit, but I don't want it to look like a solid white. I just want it to, you know, kind of be a little random. This is going to be on the inside of my card, and I'm stamping this Memento because I'm going to be coloring over it, and I didn't want to smudge because the VersaFine takes a little bit longer to dry. I'm going to grab that sentiment from the front. I'm going to stamp it right in there. And then again with the bubbles. And then I'm going to cut it out. Now I experimented with coloring this with a marker, but it was just too dark. I just wanted a light blue color, which is why I'm doing it on a separate sheet and cutting it out. And then again with the black edging here. Okay, now I'm going to adhere this to some black cardstock, and as you can see there's no tape coming out. I think my kids got into my craft room and did something, so I got that fixed, and now the tape starts coming out. And then I'm going to adhere this panel to a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch folded cardstock. And I cut my black piece, I think, a little bit too short, just a tiny millimeter, not even a millimeter short. So I just trimmed my base, and it looks fine. Sometimes that just happens. Okay, just fixing the bubbles here on this one, and that'll do it. It's a really cute card. I made it for my 12-year-old, so hopefully she'll like it. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.